Good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch, and welcome. Welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch. Drink it if you got it. It's Tuesday morning, October 1st. October already. Woke up to news of a little dock strike going on, and I'll have to take a look at the ramifications of it. Most people are expecting that it's going to really screw up our holiday season. Hopefully, they'll settle it pretty quick. For everybody's sake, including the dock workers who want what I think was a 77% increase in pay over the next, and I don't know how many years it is, 5 or 10 years. Well, isn't that special? Hey, government, I would like a 77% increase in my Social Security, and I'll let you spread it out over 10 years, and that'd be 7% a year. Then I might be able to keep up with inflation. This year I'm getting 2 point something percent. Offer that to the dock workers and see how far you get. But that's okay. That's okay. We'll see what it shakes out. We'll see what it's going to do to our food supply. Everybody else seems to be worried about what it's going to do to their holiday shopping. Our priorities are so screwed up. We'll talk about that more tonight on my live stream, 8 o'clock p.m. right here on the Old Guy Carnivore Network. OGCN. OGCN. I like that. I'll have to make a logo. OGCN. Breaking news. Yeah, cool. Well, everybody else is doing it. Tucker Carlson's doing it. Megyn Kelly's doing it. These are just two of the, what I think are the latest major media outlet recent fires or retirees to start their own networks. And they seem to be doing pretty good. Tucker Carlson is doing good. Megyn Kelly seems to be doing good. Not as good as Tucker Carlson, but then again, who is? I think that both of them have really jumped on this Make America Healthy Again bandwagon. How was that for a segue from the dock strike to talking about carnivore? Pretty clever, huh? Excuse me for a second while I light my cigar. I was talking about Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, and both of them jumping on the Make America Healthy Again campaign, which seems to be gaining some ground at some level of national attention. Robert F. Kennedy is doing his thing. They're having town hall meetings, it seems like every night, taking the troop along with them. Casey and Kaylee Means are becoming elevated to household names now. And I think it's all good up to a point. I still wrestle with how are we going to overcome those things I talked about yesterday? How are we going to overcome the market forces that really drive everything? are we going to overcome that when addicted people don't want to hear any logic and any laws that are made to keep addictive people from buying their addictive substances? Still never seem to stop it. There always seem to be a black market or a way around it. I actually heard Megyn Kelly on a video I watched yesterday touch on so many of the things we talk about. And as I listened to her talk about it, and she talked about, I used to let my kids do this, but I don't let them do that. I used to let them eat ice cream every night. I don't let them do that anymore. I admire her interest. I really do. Unfortunately, I think that all of them are focusing on all of the problems in our food supply that indeed are problems and need to be focused on and should be focused on. But other than lip service, I don't hear it mentioned at all. What they're focusing on, and what the brunt of Megyn Kelly, and I recommend that you go find it and watch it. What she was focusing on her video yesterday was so many of the problems that RFK Jr. had pointed out, and they were talking about the crap that's in our food. They're talking about the artificial dyes, the chemicals. They're talking about the pesticides sprayed on produce. Her recommendations that she's been adopting for her family were all along these lines. And the push to buy organic seems to be at the head of their list. And that might address the pesticide issue. But it still comes nowhere close to addressing any. This is what frustrates me. But I'll take one step at a time of bringing this to the public attention. But the real problems, the real issues causing the levels of disease and suffering in this country, of mental disorders, the real issue that's even causing the levels of cancer that we have, I do not believe, are the food dyes. They call them carcinogens. We're discovering right now that maybe these carcinogens alone are not responsible for the rise in cancer. Maybe it's the trashed metabolisms, the mitochondrial dysfunction. And the real culprit, the real thing that needs to be addressed, are the carbohydrates. I understand that processed food is carbohydrates and seed oils. And they talked about seed oils. Okay, get rid of the seed oils, but that requires that we start eating animal fats. I haven't heard any of them extolling the virtues of lard, bacon, tallow, fatty meat. I have not heard a mention of how dangerous a low-fat diet has been to us and why it's causing all of these metabolic problems. I have heard a slight mention of eating organic pasture-raised beef. That was the extent of the conversation. And then the caveat, well, it may be more expensive, but this is what you need to do. Megan, where do I find this in sufficient quantities to feed hundreds of millions of people that should be eating it every day in mass quantities? There was no talk, and there isn't any talk of plant toxins and plant toxicity. Zero. The major problems that we as carnivores have changed to fix our health, lose the weight, clear our minds, are a diet consisting of 70% or thereabouts animal fat, moderate protein from mostly red meat, and avoiding, organic or not, the plant foods which are not appropriate and contain all the defense chemicals. We don't need to spray glyphosate on a plant. It makes it itself. They manufacture natural insecticides. Our message, eat meat, avoid plants, solves everything. And then the only concern we have is to try to improve the quality of that meat that we get. That would truly make America healthy again. We're off to a start. We're starting to introduce the fact that our healthcare is a crisis. The biggest crisis facing this country and the human race in general. You and I have known that for years. We've watched ourselves deteriorate and get fat. More and more drugs. I think it's great that they're pointing out the corruption of the food and drug companies. I wonder how that's going to work out for us. We've been pointing out the corruption and the criminal nature of the drug cartels as far back as I can remember. They're still there. They're still smuggling their drugs in, and they're still accounting for an increasing drug problem in this country every year. All caused by addiction. I heard Megyn Kelly mouth the words carb addiction. But what seemed more important to Megyn Kelly was the food dye that in this country accounts for a more colorful breakfast cereal that addicts our kids. Yes, Megyn, as long as we are addicts, all of these other things will not decrease the demand from the end user, and that's about everybody. And the laws of supply and demand will reign. So the two things we should be focusing on and talking about, in my estimation, are number one, what our diet should be. Not how we're going to make healthier breakfast cereal by eliminating the food dyes. We should be talking about how we're going to get rid of breakfast cereal completely. The shit should never have been invented. About how we need to drastically increase the amount of animal fats that we eat every day. That alone will solve so many of the problems. It will trigger satiety. It will fight the addictions. And how we have to completely avoid, organic or not, the oxalate containing, poison containing plant material that we as a species are only supposed to eat when all else fails as survival food. That's not what the national message is focusing on. But again, at least it is being elevated and is being brought to people's attention. So has the drug problem, and so has alcoholism. But nothing's changed. There's still probably more alcoholics today than there ever have been, and more drug users. And the biggest drug pushers, the most guilty of all of them, the ones that have caused most of the problems, believe it or not, are not the drug cartels. They're the pharmaceutical industry. Look at the opioid crisis, for God's sakes. Look at the corruption from the pharmaceutical companies. They're big lobbyists. Better watch out. They're fund frigging everybody. We know there's a lot of changes to be made, but the message that reaches the most ears needs to be our little message from this little group of radicals going against virtually everything they've been taught and prospering. The second thing that needs to be elevated to a national crisis is addiction. We are an addicted nation. We're addicted to everything. We're addicted to drugs and pharmaceuticals. We're addicted to alcohol, and most devastating to our health, we are addicted to carbohydrates, most of us. That's what they should be talking about, but they're not that well educated yet. They're like most news anchors. They never knew anything about the story they're spewing out on TV until 10 minutes before they were handed the thing on a piece of paper. And most often, what was on that piece of paper was just somebody's agenda. So these news anchors just spew out one falsehood, spin one fairy tale after another that masquerades as news. The changes that it would take to fix it, fix the health in this country, fix the propaganda that would ruin this country. There'd be no economy. And if a dock strike is going to be so fearful to this economy and ruin our holiday season, just imagine what would happen if you put half the companies in this country out of business and half the people in this country lost their jobs. It's bad enough that we've got to worry about the fabulous rate that robotics are increasing. I think the health issue is the biggest. If we're all sick and dying, all the rest of this stuff becomes irrelevant. The public just isn't really that interested, believe it or not. Robert F. Kennedy has a YouTube channel. His videos that he puts out every day generally get in the 4,000 to 5,000 view range. He's not reaching many more people directly than me. He's reaching people because he's sitting in a town hall meeting every night. But I don't see any mention of those town hall meetings on the morning news or the evening news. And unfortunately, the mainstream media still has a major hold on the narrative. Make sure you got enough of what you need. If you think there's anything this strike might interrupt, I don't think it's going to interrupt. Most of the stuff that we eat that's perishable and local, I think we'll be okay with eggs, although they'll find an excuse. They're going to find an excuse to raise the price of everything because of this dock workers' strike. What could possibly go wrong? And on that note, my friends, I'll see you tonight, 8 o'clock. Old Guy Live. And we'll have some fun and a great sense of community like we always do. Until then, take the rest of the day off and eat meat.